for the third time this season, the Big Ten Freshman of the Week plays at Ohio State. His name is Julian Sayin, and it's a remarkable coincidence that we bring up that number and that name.
Is today Thursday?
It's Thursday.
So 3 thoughts on Thursday. 3 things, 3 times Julian Sayin has been named the Big Ten Freshman of the Year. And let's just start right there.
The week.
No, Freshman of the Year. Let's just start there.
That's impossible.
Why? We need to eliminate terms like freshman and sophomore and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like first year, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year, sixth year, 18th year. Like let's avoid.
Oregon would win that all the time.
And I know that there's like this thought that, well, you have all these awards that are already pre-printed, but no, screw it. We need first year player of the week.
Okay. Well, Julian Sayin would not.
He's not a freshman
because he's in his second year, but he qualifies and he's earning it. And I think they're probably going to need to retire it because he might win it every single week in November, and that might be a record. Welcome to 3 Thoughts Thursday on the Beat. He is Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. And I was going to say, we're going to have to get some midseason awards. Yes, I know they've played 7 games, but we can do an offensive MVP for Ohio State. We can do a defensive MVP.
Sure.
And then, I guess, can't do freshman because you just said that doesn't count.
Yeah.
So we'll figure out the third.
First year player of the year.
First year player of the year. Because I think there's a fascinating debate to be had, at least in my opinion. Maybe you disagree. Maybe it's incredibly obvious to you about who is the offensive MVP. It's so easy to take the quarterback. It's so easy to talk about what Julian Sayin's doing. He's shooting up the Heisman Trophy odds board. Not the straw polls. For whatever reason, some of these smarty pants voters don't want to put him up there. I can't figure out why, but I thought that his performance at Wisconsin would be enough for them to take notice of what someone who's completing 80% of his passes is doing. That's neither here nor there. Betting odds and gamblers certainly took great notice of that.
Yeah.
But you have Jeremiah Smith, you have Carnell Tate, you have Austin Birm, you have Carson Hinsman. You certainly have multiple candidates.
Okay, on the count of 3, let's say our pick. Because, again, the quarterback is the obvious choice, as always. But I think we're both going to say the same name. And it will not be as obvious, even though anybody who's watched things probably will be like, oh, that makes sense when you think about it. All right?
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Carnell
Austin
Tate.
Birm.
Shoot. Okay, well, you didn't pick the same guy. So,
Well, I'm very surprised by that one, actually. He's so good. That's not what I'm saying.
I think about Carnell Tate, and I think about Emeka Egbuka last year, and I think about how, like last year, Jeremiah Smith, at this point of the season, there were a lot of teams still trying to determine if he was real or not. Like, is this guy like actually what everyone's saying? And so there was, like, the numbers were pretty similar for Jeremiah last year. He had more touchdowns, had a few more yards, but did not have nearly the targets or the catches because Emeka was out there. Carnell Tate has been the recipient of a lot of opportunities because everyone knows who Jeremiah Smith is now. But it's not that he's just taking advantage of it and making the routine plays. He's made spectacular
There were still
play.
2 defenders on him for that first touchdown on Saturday.
He's making spectacular play after spectacular play. He has started to emerge as like a leader on the team. He's getting more vocal. He's more emotional. He's becoming a first-round NFL draft pick. He is a first-round NFL draft pick. I think that this team, because you have a second guy like him, is able to do all the things it's able to do offensively. If you take Carnell Tate away from this team and everyone can just double and triple Jeremiah without fear of another guy, because right now there is no fear of another player on the offense. If we're just being honest with ourselves. Yes, people like Bo Jackson. Yeah, they like what he's developing into. Yes, Max Clare is becoming a good weapon for Julian Sayin. Julian Sayin is not scary if you don't have Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. So for me, just the value that Carnell Tate gives the offense.
Okay.
He is my MVP on the offense.
It's a compelling argument. I am on the other side where I don't think that Jeremiah is getting enough credit for the gravity that he creates.
Sure.
And which is a crazy thing because again, I said it on Monday, maybe I've said it every day this week in some form or fashion, like his numbers are virtually the exact same. He has more catches and slightly fewer yards and 1 less touchdown. Like he's on the same pace that he was a year ago when everyone was in a tizzy about how quickly he had emerged as arguably the best wide receiver in the country. And it was the partnership of Jeremiah and Emeka that allowed things to be so great. And Carnell was just sort of
Carnell did have like 50 catches last year, right?
Quote unquote the third wheel, very good. And there were games like Northwestern where he was like, hey, look, I'm over here. This is why I was one of the most coveted wide receivers in the country as well. So certainly everyone who's watched every Ohio State game, I think, has an appreciation for Carnell's incredible hand-eye coordination, the toe-tapping ability, the sensational catches. He's as good as it gets. It just so happens that there's another guy on this team who came from another solar system, and he's incredibly valuable too. So
he's powered by the Earth's yellow sun.
It's true.
And I said
Dude,
it over
Wisconsin
and over.
should have tried kryptonite.
They should have. I tried it so many times. I said it so many times in the spring and summer. Like, there was going to be a real case for Austin Birm to be this team's MVP for the way that he's emerged. And he's played flawless.
So I know that the people I hate when other people do this, and I hate it when I do it myself. Like, Jeremiah and Carnell are splitting the vote.
Yep.
It sucks, but it is the complementary nature of their
Classic
games.
case, self-loathing.
Yeah, I know. It's tough. But I agree with you, America. I'm an idiot. I think that Ohio State could exist with one or the other. They might not be as potent at wide receiver, and I get it. But it's the fact that they're both out there that makes it, you downgrade a little bit in the most valuable conversation. And I think, for me, that's what makes it come down to Julian Sayin or Austin Birm. And while there's no world that I would remotely consider where Lincoln Kienholz is completing anywhere near 80% of his passes, there's probably some version of this offense that could be productive with him at quarterback. Not the exact one we're seeing. I think maybe the run game would be a lot more efficient. I think it could potentially be more productive if you had some. Now, Julian Sayin did run the ball, did keep it on Saturday at Wisconsin. I think that they could design something that we'd probably be seeing a team that had definitely be a very different identity. No question about that whatsoever. So if I'm just going to say, well, what's unlocked the passing attack? Obviously, it's Julian Sayin. But no matter what world you're living in, whether you're trying to emphasize the passing attack with blocking, protection, or trying to get the run game done, you would not be able to do that with Austin Birm at left tackle. And even in a week, 2 weeks into training camp, it was like, no, he's going to be at right tackle. We see that. He has to be there. That was during the Ethan Onyano conversation. But clearly, Ohio State doesn't feel like he is capable of even filling in at guard. Phillip Daniels took that job at right tackle. They slid Austin Birm over to left tackle. There's no one else that Ohio State is remotely considering for that spot. The drop-off would be precipitous if they had to scramble around. So I think they're in a spot where if I'm going strictly on not most outstanding, the way that sometimes the NCAA tournament or other things try to do, or best NFL prospect, the person on the Ohio State offense that they would not be able to replace, which makes him so valuable, is Austin Birm.
I don't disagree. I mean, again, we said it. I'm on board. I believed he was a likely candidate to prove himself to be this team's MVP, and he's played exceptional.
And it's the same reason and the same logic and justification that I am using to cast my midseason ballot for defensive MVP.
Because you can't replace Caden McDonald.
To Caden McDonald. We could have said it at the same time probably for that one.
Yeah,
but I don't know if you agree, though, because you seem to be going from a different tact.
I wonder if this defense could go without this version of Arvell Reese and the things he allows you to do. So to me, I think you wouldn't get the same productivity, you wouldn't get the same statistical output, the same domination. Maybe you give up an extra touchdown here or there if Will Smith is in there.
A touchdown, maybe.
If Will Smith is in the game instead of Caden McDonald. Yeah. I don't know that you can replicate anywhere near what Arvell Reese does. Now, I think down the road, 2 years from now, there's a conversation about Riley Pettijohn to be had because he is a very similar style of player, but the size, the speed, the fear, and I go back to, I want to reiterate what I said earlier, or reword. Julian Sayin scary. Julian Sayin with Carnell and Jeremiah, terrifying. Mm-hmm. Arvell Reese is terrifying. Arvell Reese is giving offenses pause, and
I think he's getting taller.
Somehow, I don't know what he's doing, but they're just stretching him. They got him on the rack here. He's been so good, so dynamic, so much better than anybody expected that, like, if you go on social media every Sunday morning this season and you search Arvell Reese, the way that people nationally are recognizing him and seeing him, to me, for Matt Patricia's defense to really be unlocked, it required that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, yeah, you're fortunate you have Caleb Downs, who's the best defensive player in the country. Yes, you have Sonny Styles. Yes, you have Caden McDonald. Caden Curry deserves a conversation to be had in defensive MVP. There's a lot of other. Davison Igbinosun's been awesome.
Yeah.
But Arvell Reese is changing the way that people are seeing Ohio State. He's like Micah Parsoning this defense to the point where people nationally are like, look at this dude.
Yeah. It's hard to argue that point. And
again, Caden's been great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, and I think, Riley Pettijohn is obviously not ready for that. And it's the same sort of conversation about that we were having at quarterback. If you didn't have Arvell Reese, Matt Patricia would have to be approaching the silver bullets in a different way. Like maybe Sonny Styles would be doing some of the Arvell Reese things and we'd be seeing more of Peyton Pierce. There's different configurations that you could get to. Now, what's the drop-off statistically? What's the drop-off athletically? I think Peyton Pierce is pretty darn good, but Arvell Reese is Arvell Reese. They have aliens on both sides of the football that would not be easily replicated by any sort of DNA cloning technology.
And maybe we just need
know.
like MVP conversations need to be like most valuable people and not most valuable aliens. So if we remove,
so we can't take Jeremiah.
If we move Jeremiah and Arvell, then the conversation shifts, and I would put Caleb in the alien conversation as well. You know that one alien who's got the huge brain and like controls things. What's his name? Brainiac. If like that's
maybe
Caleb.
I don't know him.
That's Caleb. You know,
I thought you were talking about the guy from Ninja Turtles.
I don't remember his name.
Oh, I don't know.
But no, so the terrestrial MVP going to anybody other than Caleb.
It's kind of crazy how like little thought Caleb Downs gets for that. We're almost falling into the same trap that we warn about all the time with national awards. Like, don't look at his stats. And if Caleb Downs, like, there's also no like for like substitution on Ohio State's roster or any roster in the country for what Caleb Downs does. If this team was trying to rely solely on Jalen McClain and Malik Hartford and Lorenzo Styles, or trying to bring, you see Fahim Delane and Leroy Roker trying to get some reps, and Ohio State trying to bring them along, again, because of the course of the season, and they don't want to, it's that push and pull. You don't want to take Caleb Downs off the field in any situation, but, you're trying to play 16 games. It's like, you can almost, I think there's times in the games where you see Matt Patricia be like, well, just be cool to get another shutout. Let's just let these starters play one more drive.
Thanks to Luke Fickell for not kicking a field goal at the end of that game on Saturday, by the way.
Well, the booze, if he had tried one, would have been
that's true.
Off the charts. And he was already getting booed anyway. So at least he didn't back down from that. And, he's not getting appreciated enough, Caleb Downs. And I think that may be true for everyone on the defensive line as well, outside of Caden McDonald, but at least for me. Because I think that Will Smith has been one of the more surprising contributors. Maybe Tywone Malone is the most surprising. I think that could be the third thing, is who has most exceeded our expectations. I guess I would have to say that would be Tywone Malone for me.
Yeah, I mean, as far as exceeding expectations, there's not really a conversation to be had about anybody other than Tywone Malone. I fully expected Caden Curry to do what he's doing. Like, he is a game wrecker. He's an impact player. He's a juice bringer. Like, he does all those things. Everyone knew that. Kenyatta Jackson, now that he's healthy, seemingly starting to be that guy. The need for Tywone Malone to do what he's done because of the drop-off in play or health from Edric Houston early in the season is huge. But Caden McDonald, of the terrestrials, is the defensive MVP.
Yeah. Is there anyone else you would consider for most exceeding expectations?
Jalen McClain, probably, because he's become almost as indispensable as Caleb Downs. When he comes off the field, the defense looks different. And he's going to have to be the guy who, you can't find a like-for-like replacement for Caleb, but next year he's going to have to be the guy who, they try to make into that type of player. So I would say Jalen is on that list for me. And then probably it.
Okay.
Everyone else is pretty much where I would have expected.
I think Bo Jackson has definitely exceeded what I thought, which sounds like a wild thing to say at this point, where he's getting starter reps, actually going out there to get the first carry of games. And I was certainly blown away by what I saw in the spring, but you sometimes have to couch that. It's early, you're maybe not going against the ones on every single snap. You're You're working with different configurations on the offensive line. You could see what the potential was going to be for him.
Yeah.
But I was like, let's tap the brakes. You still knew that C.J. Donaldson had a lot of veteran experience, and James Peoples, certainly in spring, like this guy's going to take that next step, and he's going to be J.K. Dobbins-like for Ohio State. And I think C.J. Donaldson has been fine.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time earlier
You've
in the
gotten
season.
out of him what you thought you'd get, I think.
There was a time in September I was like, I actually think he's exceeding the expectations, and it's come back to earth a little bit, but he's now giving exactly what we thought he was going to give, which is he's going to be pretty productive in the red zone. He's going to be good in short yardage situations. And I don't know, a couple times a game that they're throwing it to him, like that's fine. That was about what we thought when they took him out of the transfer portal last winter. But James Peoples has not produced at the level that any of us anticipated, so someone else was going to have to. It can be a little bit of a prisoner of the moment situation, but I didn't think that there was going to be any room for Isaiah West to contribute for this team at all. So the way that this backfield is built now heading into November is completely different than I would have anticipated. So I think it's Tywone Malone on defense. I think it has to be. I think the healthy version of Lorenzo Styles, if I'm speaking for America, has outperformed what the expectation was going to be for him. I think Ohio State's certainly excited to get him back heading into the Penn State matchup. Phillip Daniels, you could make a strong case for that. Saturday at Wisconsin was not his best game, but for me, it's on offense, it's got to be Bo Jackson.
I don't disagree. I think that the interesting thing is that Jeremiah Smith changed the conversation so much about how we expect first-year players to do things that a year ago when people were in this building being like, Jeremiah Smith is way different than we expected, you're like, yeah, but he's
a freshman.
He's not a human.
If you told me to tap the brakes on Garrett Wilson, then I'm going to do the same for Jeremiah.
But then nobody tapped the brakes. And then nobody tapped the brakes on Bo Jackson either, despite the fact that we were all expecting the brakes to be tapped. And so now you're starting to see why. As I was told before the Illinois game, the run game goes as far as Bo Jackson can take him. So maybe that sort of weight being put onto a first-year player's shoulders in such a key spot, in such a regular workload, is unexpected. So I think he has to be that guy.
Who's been the most valuable coach?
I mean, it's Matt
Patricia. Yeah,
it's not even close. I mean, and it's really not even just about scheme or results. Like, it's about vibe. And I know people love vibe checks, but
ooh, yeah, the beat is all about vibes.
I want people to understand, like, the difference between Matt Patricia and Jim Knowles is like the difference between Prince Adam and Skeletor at this point. Like, the way that people are just like, it's so different. Like we've joked about the hugs, but like, it's not a joke. Like, these guys will genuinely appreciate what Matt Patricia gives into them and pours into them. And Jim Knowles had his own methodology and his own way, and it works for him fine. It is an approach that is hard to find successful with today's athletes.
I found myself spending most of the offseason trying to straddle that conversation, appreciating what Jim Knowles did. Ohio State was number 1 in the country in defense a year ago, and they won the national championship. And now I'm like, was it Jim Knowles? And I know that that's not fair. It's revisionist history. It's hindsight. It's including what's happening at Penn State. And I know it's not fair, but some of the stuff that we just see from drive to drive, from game to game, and the way that there's so much adjusting going on, and the influence that that's having on like different configurations of the defensive line. Like when we went into off week, number 2 in October last year, coming off the Oregon loss, it was like the re-engineering of the Ohio State defense. That happened 12 months ago here. And it was after getting eviscerated by Oregon. And they made adjustments down the stretch. There's no question about that. And I'm not discounting what Jim Knowles did, but it's actually giving me an enhanced appreciation for what Matt Patricia is doing.
Because it doesn't require 14 fifth-year players to do it. And you're seeing guys who are just coming with no experience playing college football being put into spots and excelling. And then you see what's happening at Penn State, where you have a bunch of veterans that are not maybe Ohio State level veterans from a year ago, but that doesn't look the same. Like, that doesn't look like what anybody expected. And then you see what Matt Patricia's doing here. And some of it's just personnel. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Jim Knowles didn't think Arvell Reese was going to be a good enough player at linebacker. He didn't think he could see the field the right way. He thought Sonny Styles was a safety and thought he was too soft to play linebacker. Like, those are facts. And so
I think they might have missed on those evaluations.
So when you bring in what you're getting, and it's this like cohesion between James Laurinaitis and Matt Patricia and Tim Walton and Larry Johnson and McArary, that I thought Ohio State's coaching staff a year ago with Chip Kelly, with Jim Knowles, was like the best 1 through 10 assistant coaching staff I've ever seen in Ohio State. And this one's better because of the alignment. The chemistry is so much better right now. And so you're seeing that result bear fruit, even though the players have played a whole lot less football.
Yeah. And kudos to Matt Patricia for that, because it's not just about getting the players to buy in, but it's not as easy.
It's humbling himself. It's coming in here, as Ryan Day said Tuesday, he didn't bring in his own staff. He didn't have any say over who his assistants were going to be on the defense, and he's made it work with guys that he knew, guys that he coached with, guys like Larry Johnson, guys like Tim Walton, guys that he coached against, like James Laurinaitis. Like, this is a guy that is shown to be really flexible. And I think the more that you watch football, the more you see programs around the country, the coaches who can adapt to what their personnel is and not be forced to adapt their personnel to their program are the people who succeed. Like, you can't be boxed into, well, this is our defense. If you can't play it, you can't play it. If you have players like Arvell Reese and you're Matt Patricia, you come in and you say, you know what, we can actually do this, this, and this. And that is a huge difference from Jim Knowles.
Kudos. I guess it shouldn't be a surprise that a rocket scientist is not trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But
this defense is taking off.
There it is. That was more than 3 things, and it almost always is. We just call it that for the sake of consistency and because I like annoying Birm by finding something that has 3 things in it to start every single Thursday. And another one has been checked off. Thanks to Julian Sayin for that this week. And we didn't even really get to him a ton, but we did that on Wednesday with some of the stock watch and his Heisman chances. We got one more episode of The Beat left this week, and that's right. It's a Freaky Friday. It will be a mailbag. We'll get into that. And then the weekend is off. So that's what this week is. Improvement week.
Improvement week for everybody, including me and my rhinovirus.
I hope that Birm feels much better. He's got to get those feet up on the couch. Get some fluids.
Some vitamin C.
Some saltine crackers.
Yeah. Bye.
All of that. All right. Thanks for joining us on 97.1 The Fan, 10 TV, 10 TV Plus, Apple, Spotify, Roku, anything else that makes podcasts. I don't know what those are, but we appreciate you following along. We'll see you tomorrow.